Hello and welcome back to Luna Lamb's Superhero, Supervillains and More. Episode 4 is about one of my favourite heroes. She is a magic 16-year-old with evil parents. She is called Nico Minoru and her alias is Sister Grimm. The origin of Sister Grimm ties with 5 others. Their names are Molly Hayes, Alex Wilder, Gertrude Yorks and Carolina Something and Chase Stein. Their origin is that they stumbled across their parents' charity event planning. It was actually them killing a girl. And then later in the story, their parents blamed them for it. And they each have different powers. But we'll get onto that later in the episode. And then they went to 3 people's houses. The first one was Gertrude Yorks. They found a dinosaur there. A dinosaur from the future, which is actually pretty weird. The second one was Carolina Somethings. They found they found out she was an alien. The third was Chase Stein's, and he found these gloves, Fistians as they're called in the story, and they basically make fire and he can control what shapes they make. Then he also found some X-ray goggles there as well. But then their parents found out they knew about them, and that was pretty bad because Carolina nearly drowned, and Alex got stuck to a wall. So yeah, they only barely managed to survive it. And then her weapon is the Staff of One. It basically comes out when she's bleeding. No matter where she's bleeding, it always comes out of her chest. And she can make any wish with it, but she can't make the same wish twice, I don't think. And she found this out when she said smoke using it twice, because the first time it came out with birds and the second time it came out with smoke. and she can only use it a few times after she's bleeding. Then her body reabsorbs it. And even though it's like that big, it still fits in her, and it's not like she's got something poking out of her, because it goes into her soul. And there's more about souls later on, so just remember that. And her team, so I told you about some of their powers, but I didn't tell you about their aliases. The youngest one, Molly Hayes, is a mutant, and her alias, people nicknamed her Bruiser, but then she got in a tantrum, and she said she wanted to be called Princess Powerful. Chase Stein's is Talkback, and that he got given to by Gertrude Yorks, who started all this alias thingamajig, and she changed her name to Arsenic, and she changed her dinosaur's name, and she gave her dinosaur a name of Old Lace, even though it would be pretty young in that time. And Carolina Something's alias what is Lucy in the Sky. Apparently it's a Beatles song. Didn't know that. And their powers, well, Carolina Dean is an alien, so it's like her whole body is multicolours because of like solar energy, and she can shoot like solar blasts, and she can fly. Arsenic has an empathic connection with her dinosaur. I already talked about Nico and Oros. Chase Stein we'll get onto that later on, but his weapons, they are his Fistians and X-ray goggles. Molly Hayes is super powerful. But she needs loads of napping and stuff like that. And also, and next we've got their parents. So there's basically like this big group of bad guys. And they've basically got the same powers of their children. Except Chase Stein's parents have like probably different weapons instead of just Fistians and X-ray goggles. And Molly Hayes's have like they have sorry. They can control people's minds and wipe people's minds, and stuff, and that's the only differences and their parents are in a group called the Pride. They meet up once a year to kill the girl, basically. But like a girl past puberty. And then their origin is that these giant mystical creatures with 6 fingers and 6 toes summoned them to a place and said, "We want to end all of humanity in 25 years, basically." And then that's like, and then they have this big thing about, but basically they start attacking each other, and then they say, yes, let's end all of humanity in 25 years, so that there's a 50% chance of becoming immortal. And then 3 years later, Chase's mum admits she's pregnant, and then everyone starts talking about that. And then survival. So they had like run-ins with different people. I'll talk to that like after this bit. And well, they had $19 between them, since this is set in America. And sorry, excuse my faces, please. They were when they were running low on money, they just brought food like that, and they went into a hidden place, which was like a cave, and then there was this hotel which is like gone down into the ground, and Chase had brought like a sign on eBay saying it was like a gamma thingamajig. It said warning, gamma radiation experiment there, and he just put it up, so no one ever really came. Then about like their enemies, basically, I've split this into 3 different sections. The first one, vampires. So once they had a run-in with 3 vampires, at first they thought they were 3 humans. They only found out they were vampires when one of them, there was actually 104 instead of 16, admitted to Nico that he was a vampire. And then Carolina basically fed them some sunlight, which they did not know was sunlight, because she's an alien and her body absorbs solar energy, and that included sunlight. And then next section, Cloak and Dagger. They once had a run-in with Cloak and Dagger, and Nico got hit by one of Dagger's daggers. And then Nico, Alex, Carolina, and Chase, all 4 of them got sent to the Dark Force dimension. Basically, where Dormammu lives. If you've watched Doctor Strange. But then Molly accidentally pulled off Cloak's cloak, making him the person he was before he wore his cloak. And then Dagger purposely overdosed him so he would turn back into Cloak. Then everyone just got spat out of Cloak's cloak, which is not that gross at all, I wouldn't think. And then the final battle, 3rd section. Basically, Chase nearly died because the guard of the place where the Giborium lived put him underwater before Alex could say the magic word. And speaking of him, he was bad, and when Nico was frozen, he said that his parents and her parents could go and live in an eternal paradise together. She refused because, she's a good guy, he's a bad guy. But he thought his parents were good guys, so something's wrong with his brain, obviously. And then he got killed because the Giborium, just burnt him to bone. And then Chase got better and took his parents' ship, Leapfrog, there. At the end, they all regroup, except Alex because he's dead, and they go and get old Lace back, and they fly Leapfrog out into the night. So I definitely recommend it. It's really good. And why it's good is because, I've only read volume 1, but I'm going to read volume 2 in a few weeks. Why it's good is, excuse my faces. Well, I really like the I think it's good for people that like stories about children and stories that just keep on going on, and there's a set about now because that basically describes it. And there's loads of other stuff too, and really cool stuff, because at the end, this isn't really a spoiler, I don't think, but Nico defeats a robot by taking a knife that chased through her, and she stuck it into a robot, and then the robot was holding her against the wall. So the robot fell down, and then she fell down. Well, she slumped down the wall, basically, because the robot wasn't holding her too high up, but it was really, really big. And so there's loads of cool stuff in it. And there's, like, different fonts of lettering, too, and stuff like that. And I think you'll really like the art, because there's different art for the covers of each chapter and like the actual comic inside. So that's why I think it's good, and I'm recommending it to anyone who likes modern, actually adventurous books about children. Anyway, bye. I'll see you next time, episode 5, for another member of the Runaways. Oh, did I forget to mention they were Runaways? Sorry. Yes, and I definitely recommend Runaways Volume 1. Bye!